Daniel left me bleeding in the emergency hallway because Vanessa needed him to sign her baby's papers. I was 38 weeks pregnant, my hospital gown was soaked through, and my husband still stepped into the elevator with his phone pressed to his ear. Before the doors closed, he looked at me and said, "Ava, do not make this bigger than it is. Vanessa is alone." I did not scream, I did not beg again. I reached for the nurse's wrist and said, "Please write down the time he left." Then I took off my wedding ring, placed it in the plastic cup beside my bed, and asked her to remove Daniel Hale as my emergency contact. That was the first document I signed without him. It would not be the last. The first thing I remember was the sound of my own breath. It came in short, broken pulls. Like my body had forgotten how to do the simplest thing. The emergency room ceiling moved above me in white strips of light. A nurse pushed the bed from one side, another held a monitor against my belly somewhere below the thin blanket. Warm blood kept spreading. Daniel walked beside the gurney with one hand on his phone and the other hand on his hair. Not my hand, his hair. He kept smoothing it back as if the worst thing happening that night was that he had been dragged out of a client dinner before dessert. "Daniel," I said. My voice sounded smaller than I expected. He looked down at me for half a second. "I'm here." But he was not. His eyes were on the phone screen, the name flashing. There was Vanessa Reed. I knew that name. Before I knew the pain had become dangerous, I knew that name from the late-night messages he said were old friend stuff. I knew it from the credit card charge for a crib he claimed was a gift for a coworker. I knew it from the way he left the room whenever she called. The nurse beside me checked the blood pressure cuff and frowned. "Mrs. Hale, how long have you been bleeding?" 20 minutes, I said. "Maybe more." She said it started at home. Daniel added. "She panicked. She has been anxious lately." The nurse did not look at him. She looked at the blanket, then she pressed a button on the wall. I had been married to Daniel for 5 years. I knew every version of his public voice. Calm Daniel, reasonable Daniel, the man who could make betrayal sound like a scheduling conflict. He was using that voice now. "She gets worked up," he told the nurse. "We had a stressful evening." I turned my head toward him. I was bleeding on the bathroom floor. He sighed, not loudly, just enough for me to hear. Then Vanessa called again. The phone vibrated in his palm once, twice, 3 times. I watched his thumb hover. "Do not answer that," I said. Daniel's jaw tightened. "Ava, do not answer her while I am lying here." The nurse looked between us. She was young, maybe late 20s, with clear eyes and a badge that read Lily Shaw. Her hand tightened on the bed rail. Daniel answered. "Vanessa, I'm at the hospital," he said, turning slightly away from me. I could hear her voice anyway, thin, shaking, sweet in the way broken glass could look pretty under light. "They will not let me finish the paperwork without you, Daniel. They said if you are going to be listed as the father, you have to sign tonight. I cannot do this alone." My whole body went cold, not from blood loss, from understanding. The monitor on my belly started beeping faster. Nurse Lily leaned over me. "Mrs. Hale, stay with me." I stared at Daniel. He did not look shocked. He did not look confused. He looked trapped. That was worse. "You told me that baby was not yours," I said. Daniel covered the phone with his palm. "Not now." "Yes," I whispered. "Now." Lily's eyes flicked to him. The other nurse had already moved toward the doors, calling for OB. Daniel lowered his voice. "Vanessa has no one else." I laughed once. It hurt so much that the laugh turned into a gasp. "I am bleeding," I said. "Your daughter is inside me." His face twitched when I said daughter. We had chosen her name together 2 months earlier, Emma. He had placed his hand on my stomach that night and promised he would be the first person she saw after me. Now he looked at the elevator. "Vanessa's baby is already here," he said. "This is a legal thing. If I do not sign, it becomes complicated." A doctor came fast around the corner, dark hair, blue scrubs, sharp eyes. "I'm Dr. Ortiz," she said. "Ava, we are going to take care of you. I need to examine you now, husband." Daniel straightened. "Yes, are you staying?" Vanessa sobbed through the phone. Daniel closed his eyes. That was the moment, not when he had lied about the crib, not when he had hidden the transfers, not when he had told me Vanessa was fragile and I was lucky to be strong. The moment was his closed eyes, because he already knew what he was about to do. "Daniel," I said. He opened his eyes and gave me a look I had seen too many times. The look that said I was expected to be reasonable because he had created a situation in which someone else was allowed to fall apart. "I will be right back," he said. Dr. Ortiz stared at him. "Mr. Hale, your wife may need emergency surgery." His face lost some color, but his feet did not move toward me. "I am in the same building," he said. "I just need 10 minutes," Lily said very quietly. Sir, your wife is actively bleeding. Daniel's phone was still pressed to his ear. Vanessa said, Daniel, please. He looked at me one more time. Ava, do not make this bigger than it is. Vanessa is alone. Then he walked away. The elevator doors opened. He stepped inside. I watched the silver doors close on my husband while blood warmed the blanket between my legs for 3 seconds. Nobody spoke. Then Dr. Ortiz moved. Prep her, she said. Now. Lily leaned close. Ava, I need you to stay with me. Is there anyone else we can call? My lips felt numb. There were so many answers I could have given. My husband, my mother who was dead, my friend Grace who lived 40 minutes away, my own past self who still thought love meant endurance. Instead I looked at the plastic cup on the tray beside my bed. It held my earrings, my hair tie, and the wedding ring Daniel had put on my finger 5 years earlier while promising that nothing in the world would come before me. Take the ring off, I said. Lily hesitated. What? My fingers are swelling. Take it off. She did. Her touch was gentle. The ring resisted for a moment, then slid free with a small, ugly scrape. Put it in the cup, I said. She did. Please write down the time he left, I said. Her expression changed, not pity, recognition. I can note it in the chart, she said. Please do. Dr. Ortiz was checking me, speaking to the team, ordering blood work, calling for an operating room. Words moved around me like weather. Possible abruption, fetal distress, consent, emergency. Mrs. Hale, Dr. Ortiz said. We need to move quickly. Your baby's heart rate is dropping. My hand went to my stomach. Emma. I had spent months protecting her from stress, from raised voices, from the humiliation of knowing her father could not stop answering another woman's calls. I had eaten carefully, slept on my left side, counted kicks, avoided stares, forgiven things I should have named. And now Daniel was upstairs signing another baby's papers. Do you consent to surgery if needed? Dr. Ortiz asked. Yes. Do you want us to keep your husband as your emergency contact? My eyes moved to the elevator. The doors stayed closed. No, I said. Remove him. Lily's pen paused. Who should we list? I swallowed. Grace Kim, I know her number. Lily placed the form on a clipboard. My hand shook so badly she had to guide the pen between my fingers. The signature looked nothing like mine, but it was mine. Ava Bennett Hale. For the first time in years, the Bennett part looked louder than the Hale part. As they pushed me toward the operating room, I heard Daniel's voice from somewhere far away in my memory. Ava is strong, she can handle things. He had said it so often that I had mistaken it for respect. It was not respect, it was permission. Permission to leave me alone because I would survive it. The hallway lights blurred, pain gripped my spine and pulled a cry from my throat. Someone put a mask over my face. Lily walked beside me until the double doors. Your friend Grace is being called, she said. I documented everything, everything. That word followed me into the white room. As they lifted me under surgical lights, I thought of Daniel signing his name beside Vanessa's. I thought of him holding a pen while I held on to consciousness. I thought of how many times I had excused him because I wanted Emma to have a father. Then Dr. Ortiz said, Ava, we are starting. The anesthesia pulled the room away in pieces before it took me completely. I made myself one promise: if my daughter survived this night, I would never teach her that love meant waiting in pain while someone chose another woman. I woke to the sound of a baby crying. For one perfect second, I thought Daniel was beside me. Then the pain arrived. It came up through my abdomen, heavy and sharp, and the room returned in pale blue pieces. The curtain, the four-pole, the dry taste in my mouth, the empty chair, no husband, no flowers, no voice saying, you did it. Just a nurse adjusting a monitor and a tiny cry from the clear bassinet beside my bed. Emma, I whispered. The nurse turned. It was Lily. Her face softened so quickly that I understood the answer before she spoke. She is here, Lily said. 5 pounds 9 ounces, small but strong. Dr. Ortiz said. She cried before they even finished checking her. I tried to lift my head. Pain cut through me. Do not move too fast, Lily said. My baby. She rolled the bassinet closer. I saw my daughter for the first time under hospital light. She was red and wrinkled and furious, with one fist pressed against her cheek like she was ready to fight the world that had greeted her so badly. A little knit hat covered her head. Her mouth opened in protest. Her eyes were squeezed shut. I cried before I touched her. Not beautiful tears, not soft mother tears, broken ones. I am sorry, I whispered. Lily placed Emma against my chest. The second her warm weight settled on me, something in my body stopped shaking. My daughter quieted too. She did not know who had left. She did not know what papers had been signed upstairs. She did not know that the first promise of her life had already been broken by the man who was supposed to protect her. She only knew me. That was enough. For that hour I let it be enough. Grace arrived just after sunrise. She came into the room wearing yesterday's clothes, her hair in a messy knot, her face pale with anger she was trying to hide from me. Grace and I had met 8 years earlier at a non-profit legal clinic, back when I worked intake for families who could not afford advocates. She had become a family law attorney. I had become the person everyone called when they needed forms organized, appointments tracked, or feelings made easier. Grace looked at Emma first, then she looked at me. "Tell me what you need," she said. That was why I loved her. She did not ask whether I was sure. She did not ask whether Daniel had a good reason. She did not tell me to calm down for the baby. "I need copies of everything," I said, my voice scraped. "Medical records, timeline, who was present, who was not. I need to know what he signed upstairs." Grace's eyes hardened. "You know, I heard Vanessa on the phone." Lily, who had been checking the 4 lines, said, "I documented his departure in the nursing notes. The time was 9:42 p.m. Patient was active bleeding. OB team was present." Grace turned to her. "Thank you." Lily nodded once. "I am off at noon, but if she needs a patient advocate, ask for Maria at the front desk." After she left, Grace pulled the chair close to my bed. "Do you want me to call Daniel?" "No." The answer came fast. It surprised both of us. Grace sat back. "Okay, I do not want him making decisions for me or Emma. Have you signed the birth certificate worksheet yet?" "Not yet." "Good." My hand moved over Emma's blanket. She was asleep now, mouth open a little, one hand curled around nothing. "I want her last name to be Bennett," I said. Grace did not smile, but something like pride crossed her face. "Then write Bennett. They will ask about Daniel. You can answer only what is required. We will deal with legal presumptions later. Today you do not have to make his life easy." That sentence stayed in the room like fresh air. For years, I had made Daniel's life easy. When Vanessa came back to town after her divorce, I made the guest room ready because Daniel said she had no support. When he started answering her calls during dinner, I told myself compassion was not betrayal. When I found the first transfer, $2,000 labeled medical help, he said she was high risk and scared. I was 6 months pregnant then. I apologized for being suspicious when his mother Elaine told me, "Vanessa is dramatic, but you are stable." I took it as a compliment. Stable, strong, reasonable. All the words people used when they wanted you to bleed quietly. A hospital administrator came in mid-morning with forms. Grace stayed beside me. "Baby's name?" the woman asked. I looked at Emma. "Emma Marin Bennett." Grace's eyebrows lifted slightly at the middle name. I did not explain. Dr. Ortiz had stayed when Daniel left. That mattered. "Father's information?" the administrator asked. The room held its breath. I said, "Leave it pending." The woman looked up. "You are married?" "Yes. There may be additional paperwork required later." "I understand." Grace leaned forward. "For now, Ms. Bennett is recovering from emergency surgery. We will handle any follow-up through counsel." "Ms. Bennett, not Mrs. Hale." The sound of it moved through me like a key turning in a lock. The woman nodded, wrote something down, and left. Daniel arrived at 1:17 p.m. I know because I looked at the clock. He came in holding a vase of white roses and wearing the same shirt from last night. His sleeves were rolled up. On his wrist was a pale blue hospital band. Not mine, newborn visitor band. He stopped when he saw Grace, then he looked at the bassinet. His face changed. For a second I saw real emotion, shock, wonder, fear, maybe love. He moved toward Emma. I put my hand on the bassinet. "Do not touch her." He froze. "Ava." Grace stood. "Daniel." His eyes stayed on me. "I have been trying to get updates. They would not tell me anything. You were removed as my emergency contact." He stared. "What?" "I signed the form before surgery." His mouth opened then closed. He looked at Grace again. "Are you serious? You called a lawyer while giving birth?" "I called my friend after my husband left me bleeding." He flinched. "Good." Then he recovered. Daniel always recovered when there was an audience. "I was upstairs for 20 minutes, he said. 46, I said. His jaw tightened. Grace pulled a small notebook from her bag. "According to the chart, you left the emergency hallway at 9:42 p.m. Ava was taken to surgery at 10:06 p.m. You were not present. You returned to this floor at 10:28 p.m. Asked for Vanessa Reed's room and remained on maternity until after midnight." Daniel's face went still. I looked at the blue band on his wrist. "Did you sign it?" He did not answer. The silence answered for him. "Daniel," I said, "did you sign Vanessa's baby papers while I was in surgery?" His hand tightened around the vase. She was alone, he said. There it was again, the little sentence he thought could erase the blood, the fear, the empty chair beside my bed. I looked at Emma, her chest rose and fell under the hospital blanket. So was I. He set the flowers on the windowsill. You had doctors. I needed my husband. You were being taken care of. No, I said. I was being saved. There is a difference. His eyes reddened. Ava, I made a mistake. I almost laughed. A mistake was forgetting milk. A mistake was missing an exit. A mistake was not walking away from your bleeding wife to put your name on another woman's child. What did you sign? Grace asked. Daniel turned on her. This is between my wife and me. No, I said, it is between me, my child, and every legal document you signed last night. His face changed again when I said my child. Our child, he said. I reached for the plastic cup on the table. The wedding ring was inside it. Clicked softly against the side when I lifted it. Our child was born while you were holding another woman's pen. He looked at the ring like it was a weapon. Do not do this here, he said. Where would be better? I asked. The hallway where you left me, the room where Vanessa handed you forms. Ava, please. He took one step closer. I pressed the nurse call button. Daniel stopped. The humiliation in his eyes came fast and hot. He was not used to being treated like a threat. A nurse appeared in the doorway. Is everything okay? I kept my eyes on Daniel. No, I said. My visitor needs to leave. Daniel whispered my name. It sounded like a plea. It was too late for please. The nurse stepped aside, waiting. Daniel looked from me to Emma, then to Grace, then back to me. I could see the calculation forming. If he argued, he would look cruel. If he left, he would confirm what he had already done. He chose image. He left. This time, I watched him go without bleeding. When the door closed, Grace let out a breath. You know he is going to fight, she said. I looked at Emma. She opened her eyes for the first time, dark and unfocused, and turned her face toward my voice. Then he can fight the records, I said. Not me. My phone buzzed on the tray. An unknown number. The picture loaded slowly. Vanessa in a hospital bed, pale, smiling. Daniel beside her, holding a newborn boy wrapped in blue. His signature visible at the bottom of a form on the tray in front of them. Under the photo, Vanessa had written one sentence. He came when it mattered. I stared at the screen until the words stopped hurting and became evidence. Then I forwarded the message to Grace. Grace told me later that betrayal became easier to fight once it had page numbers. At first, it had only feelings. A blue hospital band on Daniel's wrist, a photograph from Vanessa, a baby girl sleeping beside my bed while my stomach burned every time I breathed. Feelings could be denied. Daniel was good at that. He could tilt his head, lower his voice, and turn any wound into a misunderstanding. Records were different. Records had times, names, signatures, locations. By the second afternoon after Emma's birth, Grace had a yellow legal pad filled with a timeline. 9:11 p.m. Ava Hale arrives at emergency department with heavy bleeding. 9:24 p.m. Fetal distress noted. 9:37 p.m. Daniel Hale present in emergency hallway. 9:42 p.m. Daniel Hale leaves despite being told patient may require emergency surgery. 9:48 p.m. Daniel Hale enters maternity wing visitor corridor. 10:06 p.m. Ava Hale taken for emergency C-section. 10:19 p.m. Emma Marin Bennett delivered. 10:22 p.m. Daniel Hale signs paternity acknowledgement packet for baby boy Reed. 10:28 p.m. Daniel Hale observed outside Vanessa Reed's recovery room. Grace placed the pen down. You understand what this does? She asked. I was sitting up against pillows with Emma sleeping against my chest. My milk had not fully come in yet. My body felt like it belonged to someone who had survived a car crash. Every time the door opened, I braced for Daniel. It proves he left, I said. It proves more than that. It shows a priority decision during a medical emergency. It shows he was informed, chose to leave, and signed a legal document for another child while his own child was being delivered. I looked down at Emma's face. She is not his own child anymore, I said. Grace's expression softened. Ava, I know biology exists. I know courts exist. I am not stupid. My voice shook so I lowered it. But in the part of her life that matters, in the part where someone shows up, she is mine. Grace reached across the bed and squeezed my ankle through the blanket. That is the part we protect. Daniel tried calling all morning. I did not answer. Then came texts. Ava, please pick up. You are letting Grace turn this into something ugly. I know you are hurt, but I had obligations. Vanessa was scared and alone. I was coming back. I did come back. You cannot keep me from my daughter. Each message arrived like a man knocking on a locked door he had built himself. I screenshot them all. Grace watched me do it. Good, she said. Do not argue, do not explain, short replies only if any. I do not want to reply. Then do not. For years I had replied to everything. Daniel hated silence. Silence gave him no material to reshape. If I cried, he could say I was unstable. If I shouted, he could say I was cruel. If I explained, he could pull one sentence out and make it the whole story. So I gave him nothing. At 4 in the afternoon Dr. Ortiz came in. She had changed out of surgical scrubs, but her eyes still had the tired focus of someone who had carried too many emergencies through the night. How is our girl? She asked. I looked at Emma. Angry when hungry. Good lungs. She checked my incision, blood pressure, and chart. Then she pulled a chair closer. Ava, I want to talk about last night. Grace sat straighter. Dr. Ortiz folded her hands. I documented that your husband left after I informed him emergency surgery was likely. I also documented that he was not available for consent or support during the procedure. Your own consent was clear. So medically there is no issue, but if you need those notes later, they are in the chart. My throat tightened. Thank you. She nodded. I also want you to know something. You did not cause this. Stress did not cause it. Crying did not cause it. Being upset did not cause it. You had a placental abruption. It can happen quickly. You got here in time. I closed my eyes. Daniel had already planted the first seed in my mind before he left. She panicked. She has been anxious lately. A woman can be cut open and still wonder if she caused the knife. Dr. Ortiz knew that. Did he ask about Emma? I asked. Her face changed just a little. He asked whether the baby was healthy. He also asked if he could access your chart. We said no. He asked about my chart before he asked to see me. Grace's pen stopped. Dr. Ortiz did not answer directly. She did not need to. He asked whether there were notes about his absence. She said. A cold calm moved through me. Daniel was not sorry yet. He was worried. There was a difference. After Dr. Ortiz left, I opened my banking app. Grace watched, but did not speak. There it was. The joint account Daniel and I had used for household expenses, mortgage, insurance, utilities, baby supplies, and transfers. Vanessa Reed, $2,000, $3,000, $4,500. Some were labeled medical help. One was labeled nursery. 2 weeks before Emma was born was labeled legal fee. I stared at that one. Grace leaned closer. Ava, he paid for the paperwork. I said, maybe screenshot everything. I did. My hands were steady. That frightened me more than shaking would have. At 6 p.m. Daniel came back. This time he knocked. Grace opened the door but did not move aside. I need to see my wife, he said. She is recovering. I am not asking you. I am her attorney for family matters as of this afternoon. Grace said. You can speak to me if it involves legal access to Ava or Emma. Daniel's face flushed. This is insane. From the bed I said, let him in. Grace looked at me. I nodded. Daniel stepped inside. Slowly he had showered, changed, removed the blue hospital band. Too late. His eyes went to Emma first. She was awake, making small hungry sounds. She is beautiful, he said. I did not answer. He swallowed. Ava, I need you to understand. Vanessa was terrified. The nurse was pressuring her about the father section. She was crying. She said if I did not sign, the baby would have no one. You signed a paternity acknowledgement. He rubbed both hands over his face. It is not that simple. It is a yes or no question. He looked at Grace. Can we not do this like a courtroom? Grace said nothing. Daniel turned back to me. Yes, I signed. The room went silent except for Emma's little breaths. Is the baby yours? I asked. He closed his eyes again, always before the worst part. I do not know. Something inside me went very still. You do not know, I repeated. Vanessa says he is. And you signed. She needed stability. I needed surgery. He looked wounded by the comparison, as if I had been unfair enough to mention my blood. I was trying to do the right thing, he said. For whom? He had no answer. I shifted Emma higher against me, ignoring the pain. Daniel took a step forward. Let me hold her. No, she is my daughter. She was your daughter when you left the hallway. His eyes filled. Do not punish me by using her. That sentence almost did what he wanted, almost, because the old Ava would have heard pain and rushed to comfort it. The old Ava would have said, I am not punishing you. The old Ava would have explained that she was only hurt. The old Ava would have made room for his guilt in her hospital bed. I looked at Grace's legal pad, times, names, signatures, page numbers. I am not using her. I said, I am protecting her. From me. Yes. He looked as if I had slapped him. Good. Some truths should leave marks. Daniel's voice dropped. Ava, you cannot erase me. I looked at my daughter Emma Bennett, her name was printed on the bassinet card in black letters. No, I said, you started that when you erased us from your priorities. I am only finishing the paperwork. His mouth hardened, there he was, not the guilty husband, not the frightened father, the man who hated losing control. You will regret this, he said. Grace stood. That is enough. Daniel ignored her. When you calm down you will see what you are doing. You just had surgery, you are emotional. I reached for my phone, he stopped talking. I opened the message thread between us and typed one sentence, please confirm in writing that you left the emergency department on the night of Emma's birth to sign a paternity acknowledgement for Vanessa Reed's child. Daniel's phone buzzed in his hand, he looked down, his face changed. Ava, reply, I said, I am not playing this game. Then leave. For 1 second I thought he might throw the phone, not at me. Daniel was too controlled for that, but maybe at the wall, at the chair, at the version of himself reflected in the dark window. Instead he walked out. A minute later my phone buzzed. I did not abandon you. I stepped away because Vanessa was alone and needed me to sign temporary paperwork. I came back as soon as I could. You and the baby were safe with doctors. Grace read it over my shoulder, then she smiled without warmth. He just gave us the sentence, she said. I looked at Emma, she had fallen asleep. No, I said. He gave it to her. Leaving the hospital with Emma should have felt like beginning, it felt like escape. Grace drove us because I did not want Daniel waiting at the entrance with a camera. Ready apology. Lily rolled me to the side exit in a wheelchair. Emma strapped into the car seat on my lap. Dr. Ortiz came down on her brake and pressed a folded copy of postpartum warning signs into my hand. Call me if you need anything medical, she said. Anything. I knew what she meant. Women leaving dangerous marriages were often safer on paper than in doorways. Daniel had texted that morning, I am coming to pick up my family. I did not answer. Grace parked in the loading zone while Lily helped me into the back seat. My incision screamed when I moved, but I held Emma's car seat handle like it was the last solid thing in the world. Where are we going? Grace asked. I looked out at the hospital sliding doors. For 5 years, home had meant Daniel's house, his grey stone townhouse with the black front door, his mother's silver-framed family photos in the hallway, his wine glasses, his office, his last name on the mailbox, my mother's apartment. I said. Grace nodded. My mother had died 2 years before I married Daniel. She left me a small one-bedroom apartment above a bakery on the west side of town. Daniel always called it your little safety box with a smile that made it sound childish. He had wanted me to sell it. I never did. The apartment smelled like flour, old wood, and the lavender soap my mother used to keep in every drawer. The windows rattled when buses passed. The kitchen was too small for 2 people to stand in at the same time. It was the safest place I had ever entered. Grace carried Emma in while I shuffled behind them with one arm pressed to my abdomen. You need groceries, she said. I need my documents from the house. Not today. Today, she turned. Ava, Daniel will remove things once he realizes I am serious. Grace studied my face. I knew I looked terrible, pale, hollow-eyed, hair unwashed, a hospital bracelet still around my wrist. But under the exhaustion was something Daniel had never seen in me because I had never let it become visible. Urgency without panic. Grace sighed. We go together, you sit, I collect. No, I know where everything is. 3 hours later, after Emma fed and slept and I took pain medicine, Grace drove me to the townhouse. Daniel's car was not there, Vanessa's was, a white SUV parked in the driveway, crooked, as if she had arrived in a hurry and not cared what space she took. Grace whispered a word I will not repeat. I sat very still in the passenger seat. The house where I had painted Emma's nursery had another woman's car in front of it before my daughter was even a week old. Do you want to leave? Grace asked. No. Every step from the car to the door hurt. I unlocked the front door and heard voices from the kitchen. Elaine Hale's voice first. She needs to be handled carefully. Postpartum women can become irrational. Then Vanessa. I do not want to cause trouble. I just want Daniel to be able to know his son. His son. Grace's hand touched my back. Daniel spoke next, low and tense. Ava is not thinking clearly. I stepped into the kitchen doorway. 3 faces turned. Elaine sat at my breakfast table in cream cashmere, holding a cup of tea. Vanessa sat beside her, wearing soft pink and no makeup, the perfect portrait of fragile motherhood. Her baby was not with her. Daniel stood at the counter. For 1 second nobody moved, then Daniel crossed the room. Ava, you should not be here. Where is Emma? Safe. His eyes flicked behind me. With whom? With someone who did not leave her in surgery. Elaine set her cup down. That is enough. I looked at my mother-in-law. There had been a time when her disapproval could make me apologize before I knew what I had done. Elaine Hale had built her life on polished rooms and quiet threats. She had never raised her voice because she had never needed to. You gave birth 3 days ago, she said. You are not well enough to make dramatic decisions. I came for my documents. Daniel's face tightened. What documents? My passport, birth certificate, tax records, medical files, bank statements, prenup, apartment deed. Vanessa looked at Daniel quickly when I said prenup. Interesting, Elaine. Notice too. Why would you need the prenup? She asked. Grace stepped beside me. Because she is allowed to have copies of her legal documents. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Of course you brought her. Of course I did, I said. I moved toward the hallway. Daniel blocked me, not aggressively, not with raised hands, just his body in the way, like husbands do when they still think the house gives them authority. You need to calm down, he said. I looked at his shoulder instead of his face. Move, you are recovering from major surgery. Then stop making me stand. For a second he looked ashamed. He moved. I walked past him into our bedroom. The bed was made. My robe was still hanging on the chair. On the nightstand sat the book I had been reading before contractions started, a parenting book Daniel bought and never opened. I went to the closet, top shelf, blue file box, combination lock. Daniel came to the doorway. Vanessa only came because Mom wanted to talk. I did not ask. She is in a difficult position. I pulled down the box. Pain flashed white through my abdomen. Grace reached for it, but I shook my head. So was I. He flinched. Good. Do you plan to keep repeating that forever? He asked. No, I said. Eventually the documents will repeat it for me. His face hardened. There, the real Daniel again. I opened the box and took out the folder labeled personal, then tax, then prenup, then property. Daniel watched every folder like I was removing bricks from his house. When I reached for the financial folder, he stepped forward. Those are joint records. Exactly, Ava. I opened it. There were printed statements from the last 6 months. I had started printing them after the first unexplained transfer. I told myself I was being paranoid, then I told myself I was being prepared. Vanessa Reed appeared in neat black lines again and again. $2,000, $3,000, $4,500, $700 for baby furniture, $9,000 marked legal and medical. Grace looked over my shoulder, her lips pressed together. Daniel saw. I can explain. I almost smiled. Men like Daniel always believed explanation was a solvent. Pour enough over anything and the stain would disappear. I am not here for explanations. In the hallway, Elaine raised her voice just enough. Ava, come sit down. We need to discuss what is best for both babies. Both babies. The phrase hit the room like a thrown plate. I walked back to the kitchen with the folders against my chest. Vanessa had arranged her face into softness. I never wanted to hurt you, she said. I looked at her. She was beautiful in a delicate way. Big eyes, small wrists. The kind of woman people described as breakable while she cut through their lives like wire. You sent me a photo of my husband holding your baby while I was recovering from surgery. Her cheeks pinked. Daniel turned to her. You sent what? Vanessa's eyes filled. I was emotional. I laughed softly. Everyone looked at me. It was not a happy laugh. It was the sound of finally hearing the script from outside the stage. Of course, I said. Everyone is emotional except me. I am always expected to be functional. Elaine stood. You are being unfair. No, I am being accurate. Daniel rubbed his forehead. We can make a plan. Emma is my daughter. The boy might be my son. We need to handle this like adults. I stared at him. The boy. He did not even say Vanessa's son. He had already built a hallway between the two babies and placed himself in the center like a prize. There is no we, I said. His face went pale. Elaine stepped forward. Do not be foolish. A child needs a father. Then Daniel should have become one. He made one mistake. I opened the folder and placed the hospital timeline on the kitchen table. Here is the mistake. Then I placed the bank statements beside it, and here is the pattern. Vanessa stood so fast her chair scraped the floor. I do not have to sit here and be attacked. No, I said. You can leave my house, Daniel said. Ava. I turned to him. This stopped being my house the moment I had to come here like a trespasser to rescue my own documents. His eyes moved over my face. I think he saw it then, not all of it but enough. He realized I was not waiting for an apology that would let me return to the woman I had been. I picked up Emma's hospital blanket from the nursery on my way out. It was folded over the rocking chair. Daniel had assembled that chair while I read instructions and rubbed my swollen feet. For one moment, I remembered loving him there. Memory is cruel. Because it does not ask whether the person still deserves the softness it carries. I took the blanket. I left the framed ultrasound at the front door. Daniel caught up. Ava, wait. I turned. He lowered his voice. Please do not do this to our family. I looked past him into the house, Elaine whispering to Vanessa, the nursery upstairs, the photos on the wall where I smiled beside a man who knew exactly how loyal I was. Our family was in the hospital. I said, you left it. Grace opened the car door. I got in slowly, one painful inch at a time. As we drove away, Daniel stood in the doorway. Holding nothing. For the first time, I did not turn back to see if he followed. Elaine Hale sent the invitation through a courier. That was her style. Not a text, not a call, a cream envelope delivered to my mother's apartment by a man in a dark jacket. As if family manipulation became classier when it arrived on thick paper. Ava, Sunday dinner at 6. We need to discuss the children calmly. Elaine, the children. I read the card twice, then handed it to Grace. She was sitting at my tiny kitchen table, surrounded by folders, medical records, and a laptop full of scanned bank statements. Emma slept in a wrap against my chest. I had learned to type with one hand and eat toast over the sink. Grace read the card and snorted. Calmly, she said, that means they want witnesses who already agree with them. I should not go. No. I touched Emma's back, then I looked at the folder labeled Hale Family Pressure. It was thinner than the others but growing. I am going, I said. Grace stared at me. Ava, they are going to say I refused to communicate. They are going to say I kept Emma away without discussion. They are going to build a story. Let them. No. I looked at Elaine's handwriting. I want to hear the story while they still think I am too weak to answer. Sunday came cold and bright. I wore a loose black dress that did not press against my incision, flat shoes, and no wedding ring. Emma wore a white sleeper with tiny yellow ducks. I almost changed her into something more formal, then stopped. She was not attending court. She was meeting people who had already tried to divide her father before she had a birth certificate. Grace drove but stayed outside in the car after making me promise to call if Daniel blocked a door, raised his voice, or tried to take Emma. He will not, I said. You keep saying that about men who already crossed lines. She was right, so I put my phone on record before I rang the bell. In our state, one-party consent was legal. Grace had checked twice. Daniel opened the door. He looked thinner, unshaven, human in a way that might have hurt me a month earlier. His eyes went to Emma. Can I hold her? No. His mouth tightened, but he stepped aside. The Hale dining room was exactly as I remembered. Long polished table, silver candlesticks, white roses, family portraits. A room designed to make conflict feel rude. Elaine stood at the head of the table. Daniel's younger brother Mark sat to her right, his wife beside him. Mark had always been quiet around family conflict, not cruel, just absent in the way people become when comfort matters more than truth. Then Vanessa walked in from the sunroom holding her son. I stopped. Daniel said quickly, Ava, Mom thought it would be better if everyone was here. Of course she did. Vanessa looked down. I can leave if this is too painful. The sentence was perfect. Not if this is inappropriate, not if I should not be here, if this is too painful, making my pain the problem. I smiled at her. Stay. Elaine's eyes narrowed slightly. Good, let her wonder. Dinner began with soup nobody wanted. Emma slept in the carrier beside my chair. Vanessa's baby, whom she called Noah, fussed in her arms until Daniel reached for him automatically. The table noticed, so did I. Daniel bounced Noah with practiced ease. I wondered when he had learned that rhythm. Elaine cleared her throat. Ava, we all understand emotions are high. I spooned soup I did not eat. But there are innocent children involved. She continued. Emma deserves stability. Noah deserves clarity. I looked up. Noah deserves his mother telling the truth about his father. Vanessa's spoon clinked against the bowl. Daniel said, Ava. Elaine lifted one hand. This is exactly the hostility we need to avoid. I set my spoon down. Your son left me in emergency care while I was bleeding and signed documents for Vanessa's child. If naming that is hostility, then yes, expect more. Mark looked at Daniel. Daniel stared at his plate. Elaine's voice cooled. Daniel made a poor decision under pressure. No, I said, a poor decision is taking the wrong exit. He made a priority choice. Vanessa whispered. I was alone. I turned to her. You keep saying that like it is a magic word. Her eyes filled. I had just given birth. So had I. You had doctors. And you had my husband. Silence spread across the table. Daniel stood. This is not helping. I looked at him holding Noah. No, it is clarifying. His eyes dropped to the baby in his arms for 1 second. Shame crossed his face. Elaine pushed back her chair. Ava, listen. To me, Daniel has responsibilities. If Noah is his son, this family will not abandon him. And Emma should not grow up in bitterness because you are angry at an adult situation. An adult situation. I reached into my bag and pulled out the hospital timeline. Daniel's face changed. Elaine said, "What is that?" I placed it on the table between the soup bowls. The time Daniel left me, the time Emma was delivered, the time he signed Vanessa's forms. Then I pulled out copies of the bank transfers, and the money he moved from our household account to Vanessa during my pregnancy. Mark reached for the papers. Elaine snapped. Mark. He ignored her. That was new. He read the first page, then the second. His wife leaned over his shoulder. Daniel set Noah back in Vanessa's arms. Ava, do not do this in front of everyone. I looked around the table. Why not? Everyone was invited to discuss my daughter. Vanessa stood. I am not going to be humiliated. I almost admired her. She had walked into my in-laws' dining room with my husband's signature on her child's paperwork, and still believed humiliation was something happening to her. I took out my phone. Before I came in, I started recording. This is legal. I want it clear that I came to discuss boundaries and that I am being pressured to accept a household arrangement involving my husband's mistress and a child whose paternity he admits he does not know. Daniel went white. Turn that off. No. Elaine's composure cracked. You recorded a family dinner. You staged a family intervention. Mark put the papers down slowly. Daniel, he said, is this true? Daniel said nothing. Mark's face hardened. You signed for Vanessa's kid while Ava was in surgery. Vanessa snapped. Do not say it like that. How should I say it? Mark asked. No one answered. For the first time since I entered that house, the room did not belong to Elaine, it belonged to the facts. I stood carefully, one hand on the table until the pain in my abdomen settled. I will be filing for temporary custody orders tomorrow, I said, until there is a court-approved arrangement. Daniel does not take Emma anywhere. He does not come to my apartment uninvited. He does not access her medical records. He does not use her in family discussions about Vanessa's child. Daniel stepped toward me. You cannot shut me out. I can shut out chaos. I am her father. Then start with telling the truth. His voice broke. I made one mistake. I picked up Emma's carrier. She was born during that mistake. Vanessa's baby started crying. Emma slept through it. The difference felt cruel and clear. Elaine said, you will regret alienating this family. I looked at the portraits on the wall. Generations of Hales in expensive frames, all staring down like ownership was hereditary. No, I said, I regret trying to earn a place in it. Daniel followed me to the entryway. His voice dropped so the dining room could not hear. Ava, please, I do not know what Vanessa is to me anymore. I do not know what Noah is, but I know Emma is mine. I looked at him. That was the saddest thing he had said because he believed biology should matter after behavior had failed. You had a daughter, I said. Now you have a legal problem. He recoiled. I opened the front door. Grace was already out of the car, watching from the curb. Daniel saw her and stopped. Behind me, Mark's voice rose in the dining room. Mom, stop, you knew. Elaine answered too softly for me to hear. Good, let the house turn on itself. I walked down the steps with Emma asleep against my side. The cold air hit my face for the first time since the hospital. I breathed without feeling like I owed someone else my calm. Vanessa posted the next morning. She did not use my name. Women like Vanessa rarely did at first. They preferred shadows, enough shape to point, enough fog to deny. The photo showed her hand around Noah's tiny fingers. The caption read, some babies are born into complicated situations, but every child deserves a father who is allowed to show up. I pray everyone involved chooses love over bitterness. By noon, Daniel's friends had liked it. By 2. One of Elaine's Bridge Club women had commented with 3 heart emojis. By 4, someone I had hosted for Thanksgiving wrote, so beautifully said, adults should never punish children. I sat on my mother's couch with Emma sleeping beside me and read the comments until Grace took the phone out of my hand. No more, she said, I need screenshots. I took them, every comment, every relevant one. I leaned back and closed my eyes. My incisions still hurt. My milk had come in hard and painful. I was sleeping. In 90-minute pieces. Emma hated being put down. I had not washed my hair in 4 days, and somehow, I was becoming the villain in a story written by a woman whose child had my husband's signature on his paperwork. Daniel will say he did not know she posted. I said. Grace's laptop pinged. She looked at it and smiled, not kindly. He liked it. Of course he did. That afternoon was Emma's first pediatric appointment. Daniel knew the time. I had sent it through email because Grace told me to keep everything documented. The email was clear, neutral, and impossible to twist. Emma's first pediatric appointment is Tuesday at 3:30 p.m. at Westside Children's Clinic. You may attend if you confirm by noon and agree not to bring any third party. He did not confirm at 3:18 p.m. While I was signing in at the clinic with Emma in her carrier, he texted, "Can we move it? Vanessa has a meeting with the hospital billing office and I need to be there because my name is on forms." I stared at the message. My name is on forms, not my son, not my responsibility. Forms. I showed Grace, who had driven us because I still could not carry the car seat and diaper bag without pain. She whispered, "Do not answer emotionally." So I typed, "No, the appointment is proceeding as scheduled. Your absence will be noted." He replied almost immediately, "Ava, do not be petty. Emma is a newborn. It is a routine appointment." I looked at my daughter. She was 9 days old. Her face was still smaller than my palm. She had a healing mark on one heel. From hospital blood tests. Routine. Men called things routine when women carried the weight of them. The nurse called Emma Bennett. I stood. The pediatrician was a woman named Dr. Patel with silver glasses and a calm voice. She examined Emma gently, asked about feeding, diapers, sleep, my recovery, support at home. When she asked whether the father was involved, I answered without looking down, "No, he was informed of this appointment and chose not to attend." Dr. Patel paused, then she wrote it down. That small movement of her pen felt like a door locking. On the way home, Daniel called 3 times. I did not answer. Then he sent a voice message. Grace told me not to listen. I listened anyway. His voice filled the car. "Ava, this is getting out of hand. Vanessa is being attacked online because people are guessing things, and I am trying to manage 2 situations at once. You are making it impossible. I love Emma. I want to see her. But you cannot expect me to drop every crisis Vanessa has just because you are angry. That is not fair." Grace turned off the message. The car was silent except for Emma's tiny breathing. "Send it to me," Grace said. I did. That night, Daniel came to the apartment building. He did not know the unit number, but he knew the bakery downstairs because he had complained about the parking whenever we visited my mother. He texted from the sidewalk, "I am downstairs, we need to talk." I looked through the curtain. He stood under the street lamp in a dark coat, phone in hand, looking up at the windows. For a moment, memory betrayed me again. Daniel carrying my mother's boxes after the funeral. Daniel painting this apartment kitchen yellow because I said the old beige made me sad. Daniel kneeling in our first apartment with a ring and shaking hands. Then another image replaced it. Daniel in the elevator while I bled. I texted, "Leave." He replied, "I am not leaving until I see my daughter, not Emma, not the baby whose first appointment he called routine." Grace had prepared me for this. I called building security first. Then I called the non-emergency police line. Then I texted Daniel one more time, "You do not have permission to enter this building or come to my apartment. All communication goes through email or counsel. If you remain, I will document it as harassment." He looked down at his phone, then up at the windows again. For a few seconds I thought he would test it, but Daniel loved reputation more than impulse. He left before security reached the front door. The next day Grace filed for temporary custody and exclusive decision-making authority pending divorce. Daniel responded through an attorney by accusing me of withholding the child due to unresolved marital emotions. Unresolved marital emotions. Grace read the phrase aloud in her office and raised an eyebrow. "He left you in emergency care and signed another child's paternity paperwork, but sure, emotions." I almost smiled. Grace's office was downtown, all glass and clean lines, with a white noise machine outside each conference room. Emma slept in her stroller while I signed affidavits. I signed one about the hospital, one about Vanessa, one about Daniel's transfers, one about the family dinner, one about the pediatric appointment. Every signature hurt less than the last. When we reached the exhibit list, Grace tapped the page. "We requested hospital security footage through subpoena. We may not get everything, but we should get hallway movement and badge logs." "Will it show him leaving?" "Likely." "Will it show where he went?" "Maybe not inside patient areas, but we have timestamps." I nodded. Grace studied me. "What?" I asked. "You are very calm." "I am not." "You look calm." "That is different." She leaned back. You do not have to be made of steel, Ava. I know. But I was learning something. Calm did not mean untouched, it meant I had stopped handing my pain to people who would use it as proof against me. That evening, Vanessa posted again a photo of Noah's nursery, caption, "A real father is not just biology, it is the man who stays." I felt something in me go quiet. Daniel had not stayed for Emma, but he had liked the post within 3 minutes. This time I did not stare. I screenshot it, sent it to Grace, and opened Emma's baby book. On the first page, under family, I wrote Mother, Ava Bennett, then I stopped. The next line said Father. I did not rip the page out, I did not scribble. I simply left it blank. The first hearing took place in a courtroom that smelled like old paper and floor polish. Emma was 2 weeks old. She stayed with Grace's sister in the hallway because I refused to bring her into a room where adults would argue over whether the man who missed her birth should be trusted with her life. Daniel arrived with his attorney and his mother. Vanessa did not come, but she did not need to. Her presence lived inside the file box on Grace's table. Daniel looked at me when he entered. I looked at the judge's bench. That was harder than it sounds. When you have loved someone for years, your body develops habits. You look when they enter, you notice if they are tired, you wonder if they 8. You measure the room by their mood. I forced myself not to. The judge was a woman in her 50s with short grey hair and no patience for theatre. Her nameplate read Hun, Rebecca Alvarez. Daniel's attorney began with the version of the story I expected. Your Honor, Mr. Hale is a loving father who has been denied access to his newborn daughter during an emotionally charged postpartum period. He acknowledges marital conflict but disputes the characterization that he abandoned his wife or child. Grace stood. Your Honor, the issue is not marital conflict. The issue is decision-making under emergency conditions. Ongoing instability caused by Mr. Hale's involvement with another household, and the mother's need to protect a medically fragile newborn from chaos. Medically fragile. I hated those words. Emma was strong, but she had been born early by emergency surgery after fetal distress. She needed weight checks, feeding monitoring. Calm. Daniel's need to feel like a father did not outrank her need to be safe. Judge Alvarez adjusted her glasses. I have reviewed the emergency petition. I want facts, not speeches. Grace nodded. Facts are what we have. The hospital timeline came first. Daniel watched as Grace walked the judge through the records. Arrival, bleeding, OB warning, Daniel's departure, emergency surgery, Emma's birth, Daniel's signature on Vanessa Reed's paternity acknowledgement packet. His attorney stood. Your Honor, we object to references to MS Reed's private medical situation. Judge Alvarez looked over her glasses. Did Mr. Hale sign a legal document related to another newborn during the period his wife was in emergency surgery? Daniel's attorney hesitated. Yes, Your Honor, but the context, then it is relevant to his judgment. Daniel lowered his head. I watched his hands. They were clasped tightly on the table. The left one still wore his wedding ring. Mine was in a small evidence bag in Grace's file, not because it mattered legally but because I had taken it off at 9:43 p.m. Lily testified by video. She looked nervous but her voice was steady. I informed Mr. Hale that Mrs. Hale was actively bleeding and that the OB team was concerned. Dr. Ortiz also told him emergency surgery was possible. He said he would be right back. He left the emergency hallway. Grace asked, did Mrs. Hale ask for him? Yes. Did she appear to understand the seriousness of her condition? Yes, she was frightened but oriented. Daniel's attorney asked, Nurse Shaw, is it possible Mr. Hale believed his wife was safe with medical professionals? Lily paused, then she said, patients are safer with medical professionals. That does not mean they are not abandoned by family. The courtroom went silent. I looked down before anyone could see my face. Dr. Ortiz's written statement was entered next. Then the pediatric appointment record, then Daniel's texts. Ava, do not be petty. Emma is a newborn. It is a routine appointment. Judge Alvarez read that one twice. Daniel's attorney tried to soften it. My client was under pressure from multiple directions. Grace stood again. Your Honor, that is exactly the concern. Mr. Hale repeatedly places pressure from MS. Read above the immediate needs of his wife and newborn daughter. He does not dispute leaving. He does not dispute signing the paperwork. He does not dispute missing the pediatric appointment. He disputes only the consequences. Daniel finally looked at me. His eyes were wet. The old Ava would have folded. The new Ava looked at the judge. Daniel testified. His attorney guided him carefully. He said he loved Emma. He said he had been overwhelmed. He said Vanessa had suffered complications and had no family. He said he thought I was safe, he said he came back, he said I was punishing him. Then Grace stood. Mr. Hale, when Dr. Ortiz told you your wife might need emergency surgery, did you stay? No. Where did you go? To the maternity wing. To see Vanessa Reed? Yes. Did you sign paperwork identifying yourself as father or potential father of her child? His jaw clenched. Yes. Did you know whether you were the biological father? No. A murmur moved through the courtroom. Judge Alvarez looked up. Grace continued, calm as a blade. Did you tell your wife before that night that Ms. Reed's child might be yours? No. Did your wife know you were financially supporting Ms. Reed during her pregnancy? Daniel's attorney stood. Objection. Judge Alvarez said. Overruled. Answer. Daniel swallowed. Not fully, a phrase designed by cowards. Grace placed the bank statements on the screen. Is this your transfer to Vanessa Reed for $9,000 labeled legal and medical? Yes. Was that from the household account you shared with Ava? Yes. Was Ava 8 months pregnant at the time? Daniel closed his eyes. Yes. Grace let the silence sit, then she asked. When Emma was born, did you know her middle name? Daniel frowned. What? Her full legal name, do you know it? He looked at me. I did not help him. Emma Ava Hale, he said. Something inside me went cold and final. Grace turned a page. Her name is Emma Marin Bennett. Daniel stared at me. In that moment I did not feel triumphant. I felt the quiet grief of realizing he had not even read the paperwork he claimed I kept from him. Judge Alvarez issued temporary orders that afternoon. Primary physical care to me, sole temporary medical decision-making to me. Daniel could have supervised visits twice a week at a family center until the full custody hearing. No removal of Emma from my care, no third-party contact involving Vanessa Reed or Elaine Hale. All communication through a parenting app. When the judge read the order, Elaine made a small sound. Daniel looked stunned. He had come to court expecting to be scolded, then restored. Instead he had been measured. That was worse for him. Outside the courtroom, Grace went to get Emma. I stood near the windows holding the folder against my chest. Vanessa was waiting by the elevator. Of course she was. She wore sunglasses inside. Daniel stopped when he saw her. Vanessa, why are you here? She ignored him and looked at me. You must feel powerful, she said. I was too tired to play. No, I said. I feel postpartum. Her mouth tightened. Then she leaned closer, lowering her voice. He will always choose my son. Daniel heard it. So did Grace, returning with Emma in her car seat. So did Mark, who had arrived late and stood behind Elaine. I looked at Vanessa's perfect face. You can keep the version of him who does that, I said. Then I took Emma from Grace, turned away, and walked out of the courthouse with my daughter's name on a court order. Daniel's first supervised visit lasted 11 minutes. The center was painted in cheerful colors that could not hide the sadness of what happened there. Parents sat at small tables under the watchful eyes of staff members, trying to look natural while someone took notes on whether they knew how to hold their own children. I sat in the waiting room with Grace. Emma was inside with Daniel and a supervisor named Carla. The wall clock clicked loudly. At minute 4, Emma started crying. At minute 6, the crying got sharper. At minute 9, Carla opened the door. Ms. Bennett. I stood so fast pain pulled at my incision. Carla held Emma. Daniel stood behind her, pale and helpless. She will not take the bottle, he said. She hates that nipple shape. I said. I did not know. No. The word landed between us. Carla made a note on her clipboard. Daniel saw. His face flushed. I am learning. Then learn. I took Emma, changed the bottle top, warmed the milk under the hot water tap and settled her against my arm. She latched onto the bottle and quieted. Daniel watched as if I had performed magic. It was not magic, it was attention. When the visit ended, he followed me to the hallway. Carla stepped between us. All communication through the app. She reminded him. Daniel looked at me over her shoulder. Ava, please. I need to talk to you about Vanessa. I almost laughed. He still thought Vanessa was a topic I owed him emotional labor for. Grace appeared at my side. Use the app, she said. That evening he did. Vanessa may have misled me about Noah's paternity. I need to explain some things. This affects Emma too. I read the message while Emma slept on my chest. For a few seconds, I felt the old pull, the desire to understand, to hear the whole story, to let Daniel pour confusion into my lap and call it honesty. Then Emma sighed in her sleep. I replied, Emma's needs are not affected by Vanessa's lies. Send legal information to counsel. He sent 3 more messages. You do not understand. I was trying to do right by everyone. Vanessa said the timing matched. I may have been manipulated too, as if betrayal were a weather event that had happened to both of us. Grace called when I forwarded the messages. Do not get dragged into his discovery of consequences. She said, I know, do you? I looked at the dark window over the kitchen sink. My reflection held a baby and looked like a ghost trying to become a person. I am learning. 2 days later, Vanessa's ex-boyfriend entered the story. His name was Caleb Ross. He was a bartender, according to the affidavit Grace obtained through a private investigator. He had dated Vanessa during the months Daniel claimed she was alone. He had text messages, photos, a lease application listing them at the same address. Most importantly, he had a message from Vanessa. Daniel will sign if I cry hard enough. He owes me. Once his name is on it, I am safe. Grace slid the printout across her desk. Tell me what you feel, she said. I read the message again, then again. What did I feel? Not joy, not victory, not even surprise. I feel embarrassed, I said. Grace frowned. Why? Because part of me waited for proof that she was bad enough, as if Daniel leaving me would only count if she lied too. Grace's face softened. That is normal. It should have counted when he left. It did. I folded the paper carefully. But now he will want sympathy. Yes, I do not have any left. Good. The next week brought discovery, bank statements, emails, more messages Daniel had written to Vanessa 3 weeks before Emma's birth. Ava is close to delivery. We need to be careful. She is sensitive right now, Vanessa replied. She has you every day. I only have you when you choose me. Daniel, that is not fair. Vanessa, then prove it. I stared at those words for a long time. Then prove it. And he had. In a hospital hallway while his wife bled, Vanessa sent me one final message from a blocked number. You think paperwork makes you better than me. But Daniel came to me when both of us needed him. Deep down, you know why. I typed nothing. Instead, I forwarded it to Grace. Then I opened the parenting app and saw Daniel's latest request. I want additional visits. I know I made mistakes, but Vanessa lied to me and I want to focus on Emma now. Now, such a small word. Men loved now after they destroyed then. At the next supervised visit, Daniel arrived with a stuffed rabbit and red eyes. He looked like he had not slept. Carla took the rabbit to inspect it. Emma kicked in her carrier. Unimpressed by adult tragedy, Daniel sat across from me in the exchange room. I found out Noah may not be mine, he said before Carla could remind him. I buckled Emma's blanket. Use the app, Ava, please, Carla said. Mr. Hale, he lowered his voice. I was wrong. I looked at him then. He seemed to expect the sentence to open a door. It did not. Yes, I said. His face broke a little. That is it. What else should there be? I am telling you I was wrong. No, you are telling me Vanessa lied. That is not the same as understanding what you did. He leaned forward. I lost my mind. She made me think the baby was mine. You did not leave me because you knew Noah was yours. You left me because Vanessa asked. His mouth opened. No answer. Good. Even if he had been yours, I said. Emma was being born. I was in danger. You chose the person screaming loudest. He whispered. I hate myself for it. I lifted Emma's carrier. Hate yourself on your own time. Carla's pen moved. Daniel flinched at the sound. The visit went slightly better. He remembered to support Emma's head. He knew the correct bottle nipple because the supervisor told him. He sang one line of a lullaby and forgot the rest. Emma stared at him with solemn newborn eyes. Daniel cried. I did not comfort him. That was new too. After the visit, Grace drove us home. You did well, she said. I feel cruel. You were clear. Sometimes clear feels cruel when you were trained to be soft. Grace glanced at me. Who trained you? I thought of Elaine, Daniel, Vanessa, every person who told me I was strong enough to accept less. I did, I said, by staying. Grace did not argue that night. Emma slept 3 hours in a row for the first time. I woke before she did, panicked by the quiet. Then I saw her breathing. The apartment was dark. The bakery downstairs had not started yet. No phone buzzed. No Daniel, no Vanessa, no Elaine. No crisis someone expected me to solve. Just my daughter and me. For the first time since the hospital, the silence did not feel empty. It felt like space. The hospital charity gala had been on Daniel's calendar for months. His firm had designed the new pediatric therapy wing. Before everything, he had asked me to attend in a navy dress he loved and smile beside him for donor photos. You understand families, he had said back then. People like hearing you talk about the kids. He meant the children at the non-profit where I had worked. He also meant I made him look kind. After the temporary orders, I assumed the invitation disappeared. It did not. Dr. Ortiz called personally. Our maternal care program is adding a patient advocacy fund, she said. Grace mentioned you might be willing to speak anonymously or help with remarks. I almost said no, then she added, Ava, too many women are told to be quiet in medical rooms. You do not have to tell your story, but if you want to shape something useful from it, there is room, that word again. I said yes. The night of the gala, Grace came over while I got ready. Emma stayed with Grace's sister. I wore a black dress with long sleeves, flat shoes, and my mother's pearl earrings. The incision under the dress was healing, but I still moved carefully. Grace watched me fasten the earrings. Are you sure? No. Good answer. I am not going for revenge. Grace raised an eyebrow. I am going because Daniel still thinks public rooms belong to him. That sounds a little like revenge, maybe public truth. The gala was held in the atrium of the hospital's new wing. Glass ceiling, white lights, champagne, donors in suits, doctors in formal wear, a string quartet playing near the stairs. I saw Daniel before he saw me. He stood near a display board with his firm's logo, speaking to two hospital board members. He wore a charcoal suit and the expression of a man rebuilding a reputation. Elaine stood beside him. Vanessa stood on his other side. That surprised me for half a second, then it did not. Vanessa wore pale blue and held Noah like an accessory of innocence. Daniel was not touching her, but he was not asking her to leave either. Grace leaned close. Interesting strategy. Family man, I said. Which family? Exactly. Daniel turned, his face emptied when he saw me. Elaine's hand tightened around her clutch. Vanessa smiled, not because she was happy, because she was performing not being afraid. I walked past them without stopping. Dr. Ortiz met me near the stage. You okay? Yes. She studied my face like a doctor who knew patients lied. Close enough, I said. She nodded. Your remarks are after the board chair. The program began with speeches about innovation, care, community. Daniel's firm was thanked for its generosity. He stepped on stage briefly to accept applause. Cameras flashed. He did not look at me. Then the board chair introduced the new Emergency Maternal Advocacy Fund. Dr. Ortiz spoke first. She talked about patients who arrived in crisis, about the importance of support persons, about documentation, informed consent, and making sure women were heard even when the people around them minimized danger. Then she said, Tonight, one of our former patients has allowed us to share a timeline from her emergency delivery. Details have been changed where needed for privacy, but the structure is real. It shows why advocacy matters. She looked at me. I walked to the podium. The room blurred for 1 second. Then I found the back wall and breathed. My name is Ava Bennett, I said. A murmur moved through the room. Daniel's head snapped up. Good. I gave birth to my daughter here during an emergency C-section. The medical team saved us both. I am grateful to them in a way I will never fully be able to express. My voice stayed steady. I am not here to talk about medicine. I am here to talk about what happens when a woman in crisis is called dramatic before she is believed. The room quieted. On the screen behind me appeared a simple timeline. No names except mine and Emma's. Grace had approved every line. 9:11 p.m. Patient arrives with heavy bleeding. 9:37 p.m. Spouse informed emergency surgery may be required. 9:42 p.m. Spouse leaves emergency area. 10:06 p.m. Patient taken to surgery. 10:19 p.m. Baby delivered. I heard someone inhale sharply. Daniel stood frozen near the front. I continued. While I was in surgery, my spouse signed legal paperwork for another woman's newborn child. I learned later that the same person had been financially supporting that woman throughout my pregnancy. Vanessa moved first. She turned toward the exit. Elaine grabbed her arm. Cameras turned. Daniel looked around as if searching for a door that did not exist. I did not look at him directly. That was important. This was not a speech to him. It was a speech past him. I used to think being strong meant not making trouble. I said, I thought if I could survive something, I was obligated to survive it quietly. That night taught me the difference between endurance and consent. I endured the emergency. I did not consent to being erased. The screen changed. A new slide showed resources, patient advocates, emergency contact rights, medical record access, legal support referrals. No scandal, no shouting, no exposed photo, just truth with structure. That is why this fund matters, I said, because when someone is bleeding, the question should not be whether she is calm enough to deserve help. The question should be who is documenting that she was left alone. I stepped back for 1 second. The room held silence. Then Dr. Ortiz started clapping. Lily, Standing near the side with other nurses joined, the applause spread, not wild, not dramatic, worse for Daniel, respectful, public, believing. After the program people approached me carefully. A woman from the board squeezed my hand and said her sister had gone through something similar. A nurse thanked me. A donor asked Grace where to send additional funding. Daniel did not approach until the crowd thinned. His face was gray. "You destroyed me tonight," he said. Grace stepped forward, but I lifted my hand. "No," I said, "I described you." He looked around. "My firm may lose the hospital contract. You should have thought of that before making the hospital your alibi." Vanessa appeared behind him, furious now that softness no longer worked. "You had no right," she snapped. I looked at Noah in her arms. The baby was asleep, innocent of every adult who had used him. "You are right about one thing," I said. "He deserves better than being paperwork in your plan." Her face twisted. Daniel turned to her. "Did you lie to me?" Vanessa's mouth opened. The timing was almost funny there. Under gala lights, between donors and doctors, Daniel finally asked the question he should have asked before he signed anything. I laughed once. He looked at me. "You do not get to use her lie as the reason for your betrayal," I said. "You betrayed me before you knew whether she lied." He whispered, "Ava, no." I walked away. Behind me I heard his firm partner hiss his name. I heard Elaine say, "Not here." I heard Vanessa begin to cry. This time no one moved toward her first. By the final custody hearing, Emma was 4 months old. She could roll halfway onto her side and then become furious about being stuck. She liked ceiling fans, warm baths, and the sound of the bakery mixer downstairs. She hated Daniel's cologne, which would have been funny if it had not made every supervised visit miserable. Daniel had completed parenting classes. He had attended some visits. He had missed others. The reasons were always polished: work emergency, legal meeting, Vanessa situation. Then, after Vanessa disappeared from his life, depression. I did not mock depression. I did not deny pain. But I also did not confuse his pain with Emma's responsibility. The custody hearing lasted 2 days. This time Vanessa was subpoenaed. She arrived in a beige suit and no baby. Her softness had sharpened into resentment. Caleb Ross testified first. He confirmed the relationship timeline. He confirmed the messages. He confirmed Vanessa had told him Daniel was insurance. Daniel sat motionless. I wondered if he was ashamed because he had hurt me or because he had been fooled. Vanessa testified after lunch. Grace questioned her. "Ms. Reed, did you tell Daniel Hale with certainty that he was Noah's biological father?" "I believed he could be." "That was not my question." Vanessa looked at the judge. Judge Alvarez waited. "Yes," Vanessa said. "I told him he was." "Did you know there was another possible father?" I was confused. Grace placed the text message on the screen. "Daniel will sign if I cry hard enough. He owes me. Once his name is on it, I am safe." "Were you confused when you wrote this?" Vanessa's face went red. Daniel closed his eyes. "I did not. I watched everything, not because I enjoyed it, but because I had spent too long looking away." Daniel testified last. His attorney had changed strategy, less denial, more remorse. He said he accepted responsibility. He said he had been manipulated by Vanessa but should have known better. He said he loved Emma. He said he wanted a chance to rebuild trust. Then Grace stood. "Mr. Hale, how many of Emma's pediatric appointments have you attended?" He swallowed. 2. "How many were scheduled?" 6. "How many supervised visits have you missed?" His attorney objected to the phrasing. Judge Alvarez overruled. Daniel answered. 3. "Why, work and personal circumstances." "By personal circumstances, do you mean the legal unraveling of your acknowledgement of paternity for Vanessa Reed's child?" His jaw tightened. "Yes, Mr. Hale. When forced to choose between resolving the consequences of your relationship with Ms. Reed and consistently showing up for Emma, what did you choose?" "That is not fair." Grace tilted her head. "It is the same question your actions have been answering since the night Emma was born." The courtroom went silent. Daniel looked at me. I could see him begging without words. Not for custody, for rescue. He wanted me to interrupt the truth, soften it, translate it into something less ugly. I did not. Judge Alvarez asked him one question. "Mr. Hale, what is your daughter's pediatrician's name?" Daniel's face went blank. The answer was Dr. Patel. He did not know. The judge wrote something down. I looked at Emma's photo in the folder before me, her little fist, her serious eyes. My daughter deserved people who knew the names of those who cared for her. When I testified, Grace kept it simple. "Ms. Bennett, why are you asking for sole legal decision-making?" Because Daniel has shown that in moments of conflict he does not choose Emma's immediate needs, he chooses the crisis that makes him feel most needed. Are you trying to remove him because you are angry about the marriage? No. Are you angry? Yes. A few people shifted. I continued before anyone could twist it. I am angry. I am also organized. Emma's feeding logs, medical records, visit reports and appointment history are all in evidence. My anger did not create those records. His choices did. Grace nodded. What do you want for Emma? I want her safe. I want her routines protected. I want medical decisions made by the parent who attends medical appointments. I want her last name, home, and daily care to reflect the person who has been there since her first breath. My voice wavered then, only once. I do not want her growing up thinking love is proven by who apologizes the loudest after leaving. Daniel cried. I did not look away because his tears did not control the room anymore. Judge Alvarez issued the order the next afternoon. Sole legal decision-making to me for medical, childcare and education. Primary physical custody to me. Daniel received phased supervised visitation with the possibility of review after 6 months of consistent attendance, completion of counseling and no contact between Emma and Vanessa. No overnight visits, no removal from the county, no use of Emma's image on social media. All communication through the app. Emma's daily records would remain under Bennett. Daniel gripped the table. Elaine cried behind him. I sat very still. Grace squeezed my hand under the table. Afterward, outside the courthouse, Daniel followed at a distance until Grace turned around. Do not, she said. He stopped. I shifted Emma's diaper bag on my shoulder. Daniel's voice broke. Ava, please, just 5 minutes. I should have kept walking, but there are endings the heart needs to hear clearly. I turned. He stood on the courthouse steps, the wind pulling at his coat. I know I cannot fix it, he said, but I need you to know I love her. Love is not need, I said. His face crumpled. I love you too. That hurt, not because I believed it fully, because part of me remembered wanting it. You loved being forgiven, I said. You loved knowing I would make room. You loved that I could be counted on to survive you. He shook his head. No. Yes, Ava, I was wrong. I was stupid. I was selfish. I will spend the rest of my life making it right. No, I said. You will spend the rest of your life living with the fact that some things do not get made right. He stepped down one stair. Grace moved slightly. He stopped. I am her father, he whispered. I looked at the courthouse doors behind him, the place where records had finally said what my pain had been saying for months. You are her biological father, I said. Whether you become anything more is not up to your regret, it is up to your consistency. And it will never again require me to be your wife. He covered his face with one hand. I walked away. This time, he did not follow. Divorce was quieter than custody. That surprised me. I expected rage, accusations, courtroom drama. Instead, it became a series of conference rooms, spreadsheets, signatures, and tired lawyers asking adults to stop pretending numbers had feelings. Daniel tried once to contest the apartment. Grace laughed so hard after the call that she had to mute herself. My mother left that apartment to me before the marriage, I said. I know, Grace said. His attorney knows. Daniel is flailing. Flailing was not the same as fighting. Fighting required a target. Daniel had too many. His firm lost the hospital expansion after the gala, not because I demanded it, I did not. But donors asked questions, board members reviewed public association, and the firm decided Daniel would step back from client-facing work. Elaine blamed me. She sent one email before Grace blocked direct contact. You have humiliated this family beyond repair. Emma will someday know you destroyed her father. I read it once, then I printed it for the file. That was who I had become, not untouched, not cold, just unwilling to bleed without documentation. Vanessa's situation collapsed too. Daniel withdrew his acknowledgement of paternity after genetic testing confirmed he was not Noah's biological father. The legal process was messy, expensive, and humiliating. Vanessa moved out of the apartment Daniel had paid for. Caleb sought his own legal arrangement. I did not celebrate. Noah was a baby. None of this was his fault. But when Daniel messaged through the parenting app that the situation with Vanessa was finally over, I did not answer. It had nothing to do with Emma's feeding schedule, medical care, or visitation. So it had nothing to do with me. At 6 months old, Emma laughed for the first time at the bakery owner's dog sneezing. I recorded it for a second. My thumb hovered over Daniel's name, then I saved the video to a folder labeled Emma Milestones, not shared, not hidden, mine to decide. Daniel's visits improved, That is the part people do not expect in revenge stories. They want the villain to remain fully villainous, it makes the ending cleaner. But real life is crueler. Daniel did improve in small ways. He stopped wearing cologne, he learned Emma's bottle temperature, he remembered Dr. Patel's name, he brought diapers in the correct size, he asked the supervisor before picking Emma up, he also cried after most visits. I still did not comfort him. One afternoon, Carla invited me to observe through the glass because Daniel had requested unsupervised visitation review in the future. I watched him sit on a playmat with Emma. She stared at him with serious eyes, then reached for the soft rabbit he brought. Daniel smiled like sunrise. Then Emma dropped the rabbit and crawled toward Carla. Daniel's smile cracked. I understood his pain. I did not take responsibility for it. After the visit, he approached me in the lobby with Carla nearby. I found a counselor, he said. That is good. I am trying to understand why I needed to be needed. I adjusted Emma's hat. That will help you. Will it help us? I looked at him. Then there it was, the doorway he kept painting on walls. Us. No, I said. His breath caught. I did not say it cruelly. That made it clearer. Daniel, there is no marriage left for counseling to save. I know what the papers say. It is not the papers. He waited. I looked down at Emma. She was chewing the strap of her carrier with intense focus. I used to imagine that if you finally understood, the pain would become meaningful, like I suffered for a reason because you became better at the end of it. His eyes filled. But Emma is not a lesson I gave you. I said, my surgery was not your character development. My loneliness was not the price of your growth. He whispered, I am sorry, I believe you. Hope flashed across his face. And I am still done. It died there. I thought it would feel satisfying. It felt saddened. Clean. The divorce settlement was finalized 2 months later. I kept my apartment, my savings, my retirement account, and full control over Emma's daily expenses. Daniel paid child support based on the custody order. The townhouse would be sold. With my share protected, the joint accounts were closed. His transfers to Vanessa were counted against his portion of marital spending. He hated that part, not because of the money, because numbers do not care about excuses. At the final mediation, Daniel looked exhausted. His attorney slid the agreement across the table. Grace reviewed each page with me. Elaine was not there, Vanessa was not there, no crying babies, no hospital lights, no family portraits, just paper. Daniel watched me sign Ava Bennett. I did not write Hale, he noticed. His hand shook when he signed his own name. Afterward in the hallway he said, can I ask one thing? Grace looked ready to refuse. I said, one. Did you ever think about forgiving me? I looked at him for a long moment. Yes. His face changed. Many times, I said. In the hospital because I was scared, at the apartment because I was tired at the first visit, because you cried at the hearing, because I remembered who you were before Vanessa came back. He swallowed. What stopped you? I thought of Emma's blank father line in the baby book. Not erased out of hate, left blank because truth deserved room. You kept asking for forgiveness as if it were a way back. I said, forgiveness, if it comes, will be something I do for my own peace. It will never be a key I hand you. He nodded like the words physically hurt. Then he stepped aside. That was the kindest thing he had done in months. The divorce became final on a Thursday morning. No rain, no dramatic sky, no music rising as I walked out of the courthouse, just a clerk stamping documents behind glass. Grace hugged me outside the building. How do you feel? She asked. I looked at the decree in my hand. Hungry. She laughed so hard she cried. We ate pancakes at a diner with cracked red booths, and Emma threw mashed banana onto the table like a tiny queen distributing land. I fed her pieces of pancake while Grace toasted with coffee. To Ava Bennett, she said. I lifted my water glass. To Emma Bennett, I said. By then, Emma was almost 1. Her hair had grown into soft brown curls. She could stand if she held the couch. She said mama mostly when angry. She loved the bakery dog, hated peas, and clapped whenever someone sneezed. Her life was small, repetitive, and sacred. Morning bottle, bakery smells, walks in the park, Dr. Patel appointments, music on the kitchen floor, visits with Daniel under conditions he did not control. He had become consistent enough for slightly longer supervised visits. Not unsupervised, not yet, maybe not for a long time. That would depend on Emma's needs, not his guilt. He sent messages through the app now without emotional hooks. Emma drank 6 ounces. Emma liked the blue stacking cup. Emma cried when I sang, but calmed when Carla sang. I almost smiled at that one. He was learning, but learning did not restore him to the center. That was what he never fully understood until Emma's first birthday. I held the party in the bakery after closing. Nothing huge. Grace, her sister, Dr. Ortiz, Lily, my neighbor Mrs. Alvarez, the bakery owners, and Mark with his wife. Mark had apologized months earlier, not dramatically, just one honest sentence. I saw more than I admitted, and I am sorry. I accepted that. Elaine was not invited, Daniel was not invited, not because I wanted to punish him, because the custody order gave him a birthday visit the next morning, and I no longer merged my life with his to spare his feelings. The bakery smelled like vanilla and buttercream. Emma wore a yellow dress and no shoes. She sat in a high chair decorated with paper flowers while everyone sang. She stared at the candle like it had personally offended her. Then she grabbed frosting with her whole fist. Everyone laughed for a moment. Happiness was not loud, it was warm. It filled the room quietly like sunlight on a floor. Then the bell over the bakery door rang. Daniel stood inside. The room went still. He held a gift bag. His eyes found Emma first, then me. I just wanted to drop this off, he said. Grace stood. So did Mark. I wiped frosting from Emma's hand and walked to the front of the bakery. Your visit is tomorrow, I said. I know, I am not trying to cause trouble. That is good. Leave the gift with Grace. His face twisted. Ava, it is her first birthday. Yes, I am her father. The sentence had lost some of its force over the past year. He said it now not like a weapon but like a man pressing on a bruise. I felt no anger that surprised me, only clarity. You are her father under the order, I said. You have your time tomorrow. Do you know what it feels like to be outside this window? I looked back at Emma. She was smearing frosting across her tray while Lily took photos. Safe, loved, unbothered. Yes, I said. Daniel frowned. I know exactly what it feels like to be on the other side of a door while your family moment happens without you. His face went white. The hospital rose between us, the hallway, the elevator, the signature. He looked down. I deserved that, he whispered. I did not answer because yes, he did. But I was no longer interested in handing out pain and calling it balance. He held out the gift bag. Grace took it. Daniel looked past me one more time. Emma saw him then. She blinked, curious but not reaching. Then the bakery dog sneezed from under a table, and she clapped. Daniel's eyes filled. That was when he understood, not legally, not intellectually. He understood in the body. He was not erased because I had lied about him. He was erased because life had continued. Emma had favorite people, favorite sounds, favorite rooms. Her world had formed around the person who stayed. He was no longer the missing center. He was a visitor with scheduled hours. I hope she had a good day, he said. She did. He nodded, then he left. I locked the bakery door behind him, not slammed, locked. When I turned back, Grace was watching me. You okay? I looked at Emma, my daughter with frosting in her hair and my last name on every record that mattered. Yes, I said, and I meant it. Later that night, after everyone left and Emma fell asleep in her crib, I opened the baby book. I turned to the first page. Mother, Ava Bennett. Father. The line was still blank. For months, I had thought the blank space represented absence. Now I saw it differently. It was not a wound, it was a boundary. I did not need to fill every blank Daniel left. I did not need to explain him into goodness for Emma. I did not need to make him larger in her life than his actions allowed. One day she would ask. I would tell her the truth in words gentle enough for her age and honest enough for her dignity. Your father made choices that hurt us. I made choices that protected us. That would be enough. I closed the book. From the crib, Emma sighed in her sleep. I stood there for a long time, listening to the quiet. A year earlier, I thought quiet meant being abandoned. Now it meant no one was lying in the next room. It meant no phone calls from another woman in the middle of dinner. No mother-in-law teaching me to swallow disrespect politely. No husband turning my pain into inconvenience. No elevator doors closing while I begged someone to stay. Just a small apartment above a bakery, a sleeping child, and a life that belonged to me. Daniel once told me I could not erase him. He was right in one way. I could not erase biology. I could not erase the hospital. I could not erase the years I loved him or the night he chose another woman's paperwork over my blood. But I erased his access to my peace. I erased his authority over my choices. I erased his last name from the life my daughter woke up inside every morning. And when Emma stirred, I reached into the crib and placed my hand gently on her back. She settled under my touch. No fear, no waiting, no divided love, just us. That was not revenge, that was freedom.